Joining me now is California Congressman Jimmy Gomez. He is a member of the Intelligence and Ways and Means Committees. Good to see you again, Congressman. I'd love to get your response to Secretary Rubio's contention that the administration didn't need congressional authorization to carry out these actions, calling this a law enforcement operation, not an invasion.
I think people need to remember that this administration has been continuously misleading the American public since the beginning or early part of the year. Remember that he tried to justify taking actions, deporting immigrants from this country back to Venezuela because there was a connection between Maduro and Tren de Agua. But NIC assessment said that that wasn't true, that there was little evidence to show that connection. But that's because they always had it in mind that they were going to deport people back to this country, that they were going to use the excuse of drug trafficking, specifically fentanyl, to take action. And then they had an unprecedented military buildup. So if this is just an arrest operation, then why is there such a military buildup in the Caribbean that will allow them to not only to remove individuals, but to also to invade that country? So I think he's just misleading the people once again. He said it wasn't about regime change, but that's exactly what they're trying to do.
You know, the way you just described this about the buildup in the Caribbean, if it is just an arrest, would you then expect the military presence, the huge military presence, to just go away?
Exactly. Here's the thing. This military presence is pulling assets from all across the globe. So one thing it's doing, it's actually making us more vulnerable to other threats, real threats. Maduro and the Venezuelan regime was never an immediate military threat to the United States. So all of a sudden we pull all these resources to the Caribbean in order to execute this operation. So what are they trying to do? Are they trying to change the regime? Are they trying to arrest Maduro, maybe his vice president, the interior minister, the defense minister? Or, as Trump said, he's going to leave them in place to if they cooperate. So a lot of their messaging has been all over the place. It's also, I believe, it's just been a straight up lie to the American people to justify their actions of regime change or controlling the Venezuelan government to do what they want when they want them to do it.
So House Democrats, just a short time ago, they held that emergency caucus meeting to discuss the administration's actions in Venezuela. You were at that meeting. What measures will Democrats take to ensure President Trump is acting legally and within his authorized powers?
The caucus is a diverse caucus, and there's members that are expressing support for the Venezuelan people, that they were living under this regime that was terrorizing them, that was arresting people by the thousands, ignored democratic elections, as well as led to 6 million people to flee. And 600,000 of those Venezuelans live in the United States under TPS. So what we're concerned about, one, we want to pass another war powers resolution to say that this should not be allowed to as an invasion into Venezuela. Two, to make sure that the American people understand the consequences of what happens if this continues. Because what you're setting up is like a power struggle that could potentially happen in Venezuela that will lead more people to flee the country and to the surrounding areas and destabilize the region. So this is what people are talking about. A lot of us also fear that Trump's going to cut a deal, let the oil companies back in. Chavista regime stays intact as long as they accept all the TPS holders back and allow people to be deported back to that country. So that's one of the things that we're fearing. But we're going to take some actions in the coming days and weeks to continue to highlight these issues.
So Secretary Rubio today backpedaled from President Trump's assertion that the U.S. will take over Venezuela, saying that Washington will use control of the country's oil industry to further U.S. interests there. However, Trump has not ruled out U.S. troops in Venezuela. Is there a meaningful distinction between those two policies? I mean, how concerned are you that this becomes another U.S. occupation boondoggle like Iraq?
The American people don't want an endless occupation, an endless war. They don't want to end up in a situation where Trump is trying to pour billions of dollars into taking over a country and building it up while the American people struggle to make ends meet, to buy a house, to put a kid through college or pay for childcare or the ACA subsidies. So they don't want that. So Rubio, what he's trying to do is basically saying, oh, we're not going to run the country, because he knows even amongst the Republican base, that is toxic. And at the same time, if they're going to try to do an invasion and run the country, well, they need to seek authorization from Congress that they will probably not get unless they get every single Republican to vote for it.
Okay. Congressman Jimmy Gomez, many thanks.